The sound of sirens pierced the air as Chief Samantha Blake rushed to the scene, her heart pounding. She knew her 16-year-old son, Michael, was in trouble, but she had no idea the call came from Karen, her neighbor from hell. What was supposed to be a routine traffic stop had escalated into a life-changing confrontation that would shatter the fragile peace of this quiet suburban community forever. Samantha gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, as she raced toward the flashing lights. Her mind raced with 1,000 questions. What had happened? Was Michael hurt? And why on earth had Karen, the infuriatingly nosy woman who lived down the street, called the police on her own son? As she pulled up to the scene, Samantha took a deep breath and composed herself, projecting an air of calm authority. Approaching the officers, she flashed her badge. "What's going on here?" she demanded. The young patrolman looked startled. "Chief Blake? We, received a call about a disturbance. Apparently your son was involved in an altercation with a neighbor." Samantha felt her heart sink. "My son. Where is he?" "Over there," the officer said, gesturing toward a squad car where Michael sat, his head in his hands. Storming over, Samantha threw open the car door. "Michael, what happened?" Her son looked up, his eyes red from crying. "Mom, I didn't mean to." "Karen, Karen?" Samantha interrupted, her voice sharp. "What does she have to do with this?" Michael hesitated, then spilled out the story. He'd been pulling out of the driveway when Karen had suddenly stepped in front of his car, yelling and waving her arms. Startled, Michael had slammed on the brakes, but apparently Karen had stumbled and fallen. She'd immediately called 911, screaming that Michael had tried to run her over. Samantha felt her blood boil. Of course, Karen would pull a stunt like this. The woman had been making her and Michael's life a living hell for years with her endless complaints and meddling. But this time, she'd gone too far. Turning to the nearest officer, Samantha said in a measured tone, "I'll take it from here." Then, placing a hand on Michael's shoulder, she guided him toward her car. "Come on, let's get out of here." As they drove away, Michael looked at his mom, fear and shame written all over his face. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to." Samantha cut him off with a wave of her hand. "It's not your fault, Michael. Karen's the one who's going to pay for this." Michael stared at her, eyes wide. "What are you going to do?" Samantha's jaw tightened. "Whatever it takes." The drive home was tense and silent. Michael kept sneaking worried glances at his mother, unsure of what was going through her mind. Samantha's knuckles were white as she gripped the steering wheel, her jaw set in a determined line. As soon as they pulled into the driveway, Samantha turned to her son. "Go inside and wait for me. I have to deal with this." "But Mom," Michael began, his voice trembling. "Just do it, Michael," Samantha said, her tone brooking no argument. Reluctantly, Michael slipped out of the car and trudged toward the house, his shoulders slumped. Samantha watched him go, her heart aching. She hated seeing her son so upset, but she knew she had to handle this situation swiftly and decisively. Taking a deep breath, Samantha marched across the street to the Wilsons' house, her police uniform lending her an air of authority. She pounded on the door, her jaw set in a grim line. When Karen opened the door, her expression shifted from surprised to a triumphant sneer. "Chief Blake, I was wondering when you'd show up." She crossed her arms over her chest. "I suppose you're here to defend your little hooligan of a son." Samantha felt her temper flare, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Cut the crap, Karen. You know damn well Michael didn't do anything wrong. Why did you call the police?" Karen's eyes narrowed. "That boy of yours nearly ran me over. I could have been seriously hurt." "Oh, please," Samantha scoffed. "I've seen the way you deliberately step in front of cars just to cause a scene. Don't think I don't know about your little games." Karen's face flushed with anger. "How dare you? Save it, Samantha interjected, holding up a hand. I'm not here to argue. I want you to go down to the station and officially retract your complaint against my son. Karen's eyes widened in surprise, then her lips curled into a malicious grin. And what if I refuse? Samantha's gaze hardened. Then I'll have you arrested for filing a false report. Karen's mouth dropped open. You can't do that. Try me, Samantha said, her voice low and deadly serious. The two women stared at each other, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Karen let out an exasperated sigh. Fine. I'll go down to the station tomorrow. Samantha nodded, her expression grim. Good. And Karen? If you ever pull a stunt like this again, I won't be so lenient. With that, she turned on her heel and strode back to her house, leaving a fuming Karen in her wake. As Samantha entered the house, she found Michael pacing nervously in the living room. He looked up at her, his eyes wide with apprehension. Mom, what happened? What did you say to Karen? Samantha sighed and gestured for him to sit down. I told her to go down to the station and retract her complaint against you. Michael's brow furrowed. But what if she doesn't? Then I threatened to have her arrested for filing a false report, Samantha said, her jaw tightening. Arrested. Michael's eyes widened. Mom, you can't do that. What if it backfires and I end up in trouble? Samantha reached out and squeezed his hand reassuringly. Don't worry, Michael. I won't let anything happen to you. Karen's the one who's going to pay for this. Michael still looked uncertain. But what if? Trust me, Samantha interrupted, her voice firm. I know what I'm doing. Karen isn't going to get away with this. Just then, the sound of a car door slamming outside made them both jump. Samantha peered out the window to see Karen storming back to her house, her face flushed with anger. Looks like she's on her way to the station, Samantha muttered, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. Michael chewed on his lower lip nervously. Mom, are you sure this is a good idea? What if she tells them you threatened her? Samantha placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression reassuring. I'm the chief of police, remember? Nobody's going to believe her over me. She paused, her eyes narrowing. Besides, I have a feeling Karen's about to learn a very important lesson. Michael still looked unconvinced, but he nodded reluctantly. Okay, Mom. I trust you. Samantha pulled him into a tight hug. That's my boy. Now, why don't you go upstairs and try to relax? I'll handle everything from here. As Michael retreated to his room, Samantha turned her attention back to the window, her gaze fixed on the Wilsons' house. She knew Karen was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, and Samantha was more than ready to make her pay. The next morning, Samantha arrived at the police station earlier than usual, her coffee cup in hand. She greeted the officers at the front desk, her tone as friendly and casual as ever. Morning, everyone. Has our dear neighbor Karen Wilson been in yet? The young officer on duty nodded. Yes, ma'am. She came in about an hour ago, demanding to speak with you. Samantha felt a smile tug at the corners of her mouth. Excellent. Send her in, won't you? A few moments later, Karen burst through the door, her face flushed with anger. Chief Blake, what is the meaning of this? She practically shrieked. Samantha raised a hand, silencing the irate woman. Please, Karen, have a seat. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Let's discuss this calmly and rationally. Karen's eyes narrowed, but she grudgingly took the offered seat, her fingers tapping impatiently on the armrest. Rationally? You threatened to have me arrested. Samantha leaned back in her chair, taking a sip of her coffee. I did no such thing. I simply asked you to come down here and retract your complaint against my son. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is exactly what you did, correct? Karen's face reddened. Well, yes, but... Excellent, Samantha interrupted, her tone infuriatingly pleasant. Then we have no further issues to discuss. No further issues, Karen sputtered. Your son nearly ran me over, and you're just letting him off the hook. Samantha fixed her with a pointed stare. Your report states that my son failed to yield and caused you to fall. However, several witnesses have come forward with a different account. Karen's eyes widened. Witnesses? What witnesses? Samantha leaned forward, her expression stern. It seems your little stunt was witnessed by not one, but 3 of your neighbors. They all corroborated Michael's version of events, that you deliberately stepped in front of his car. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's ridiculous. They're lying. Samantha shook her head, a patronizing smile on her face. I'm afraid the evidence doesn't support your claim, Karen. In fact, it paints a rather unflattering picture of your character. Karen's face fell, the realization dawning on her. You're going to arrest me, aren't you? Samantha's smile widened. Not just yet. You see, I'm willing to let this whole incident slide on one condition. Karen eyed her warily. And what's that? You leave my family alone. No more false complaints. No more harassment. Nothing. If I so much as hear a whisper of you causing trouble for Michael or me, I won't hesitate to have you thrown in jail. Is that understood? Karen's shoulders slumped in defeat. Yes, she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Excellent. Samantha stood, signaling the end of their discussion. Now, I suggest you go home and think about how to be a better neighbor. And Karen? Karen looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resentment. Welcome to the neighborhood. As Karen slumped out of the police station, Samantha felt a sense of triumph wash over her. She knew she had won this round, but she also knew Karen was the type to hold a grudge. The woman would be plotting her revenge, and Samantha would have to be vigilant. Returning to her office, Samantha found Michael waiting anxiously. Well? He asked, his eyes full of apprehension. What happened? Samantha smiled and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. It's all taken care of, Michael. Karen retracted her complaint, and I made it very clear that she's to leave us alone from now on. Michael's brow furrowed. But what if she doesn't listen? What if she tries something else? Samantha's expression hardened. Then she'll be the one facing consequences. I won't let her get away with this, I promise. Michael nodded, but Samantha could still see the worry in his eyes. I just don't want you to get in trouble because of me, he said softly. Samantha pulled him into a hug. You don't have to worry about that, sweetheart. I'm the chief of police, remember? Nobody's going to challenge me on this. Michael sighed and nodded against her shoulder. Okay, Mom. I trust you. Samantha held him for a moment longer, then released him with a reassuring smile. Why don't you head home and try to relax? I have a few more things to take care of here, but I'll be home soon. As Michael left, Samantha turned her attention to the stack of files on her desk. She needed to make sure every detail of the incident was properly documented, just in case Karen tried to retaliate. She knew the woman would be on her best behavior for now, but it was only a matter of time before she slipped up. Samantha spent the next several hours meticulously reviewing the reports, cross-checking witness statements, and ensuring that the record was airtight. By the time she was done, she felt a sense of satisfaction wash over her. Karen had made a grave mistake in messing with her son, and Samantha was determined to make sure she paid for it. As she headed home, Samantha couldn't help but feel a twinge of concern for Michael. She knew he was worried about the fallout, and she couldn't blame them. Karen was a formidable opponent, and Samantha couldn't be certain that she wouldn't try something even more underhanded in the future. But Samantha was a formidable opponent in her own right, and she was willing to do whatever it took to protect her family. As she pulled into the driveway, she made a silent vow that Karen would never again threaten her son's well-being. This was her territory, and she was the one in charge. The next few weeks passed in relative peace, with Karen keeping a low profile and avoiding any further confrontations. Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of unease, however. She knew the woman was biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One evening, as Samantha and Michael were enjoying a quiet dinner at home, the doorbell rang. Exchanging a puzzled glance, Samantha went to answer it, only to find a somber-faced officer on her doorstep. "Chief Blake, I'm sorry to bother you, but we've received a report of a break-in at your neighbor's house." Samantha felt her heart drop. Karen's house. The officer nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Apparently, she came home to find her front door kicked in and several valuable items missing. Samantha's mind raced. Had Karen finally snapped and decided to take matters into her own hands? Or was this the work of someone else entirely? Was there any sign of forced entry? "Not that we could see," the officer replied. "The door seems to have been unlocked." Samantha frowned, a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. "I see. Thank you for informing me. I'll head over there right away." As the officer left, Samantha turned to Michael, who had come up behind her. "Stay here," she said, her voice grave. "I need to go check on things." Michael's eyes widened. "You don't think Karen—" "I don't know what to think," Samantha interrupted. "But I need to find out what's going on." Without another word, Samantha hurried across the street to the Wilsons' house. The front door hung open, and she could hear Karen's frantic voice inside. "It's all gone. Everything's gone." Steeling herself, Samantha stepped through the threshold. "Karen? What happened?" Karen whirled around, her eyes wild. "Chief Blake, thank goodness you're here. Someone broke into my house and stole all my jewelry, my cash, even my grandmother's wedding ring." Samantha studied the woman's distraught expression, searching for any sign of deception. "Was the door unlocked when you came home?" Karen nodded emphatically. Yes, I always lock it, but this time it was just open." Samantha's brow furrowed. "And you didn't see or hear anything suspicious?" "No, nothing," Karen exclaimed. "I came home, saw the door, and that's when I called the police." Samantha nodded slowly, her mind racing. Something about the situation didn't sit right with her. "All right, Karen. I'll have my officers take a closer look and see if they can find any evidence." As Samantha began surveying the scene, a nagging suspicion took hold of her. Could this all be a setup? Had Karen staged the break-in to frame someone else, perhaps even Michael? The thought made her blood boil, but she knew she needed to keep a level head. One thing was certain. Samantha was determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, no matter what it took. As Samantha surveyed the scene, she couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that something wasn't right. The lack of forced entry, the missing valuables. It all had the hallmarks of a staged burglary. And given Karen's history of hostility towards her and Michael, Samantha couldn't help but wonder if the woman was up to her old tricks. Her officers combed through the house, dusting for fingerprints and collecting any potential evidence. But Samantha knew that without a clear lead, it would be an uphill battle to prove Karen's involvement, if she was indeed the culprit. As the investigation continued, Samantha couldn't help but worry about the toll this was taking on Michael. Her son had been on edge ever since the initial incident with Karen, and Samantha knew he was terrified of being implicated in this new crime. "Mom, do you really think Karen could be behind this?" Michael asked, his voice laced with concern. Samantha sighed and pulled him into a reassuring hug. "I'm not sure, sweetheart. But I promised you, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I won't let Karen pin anything on you, no matter what." Michael nodded, but Samantha could see the fear in his eyes. "I just don't understand why she's doing this. What did we ever do to her?" Samantha shook her head, her expression grim. "Some people just have a need to cause trouble, Michael. And unfortunately, we seem to have drawn the short straw with Karen." As the hours ticked by, the officers continued their investigation, but Samantha could see that they were hitting dead ends. Without any concrete evidence, it was going to be an uphill battle to make a case against Karen. Frustrated, Samantha decided to take matters into her own hands. Dismissing her officers for the night, she headed back to her own home, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew she needed to find a way to outsmart Karen, to catch the woman in the act and expose her true colors. As she entered the house, she found Michael waiting anxiously. "Any news?" he asked, his eyes filled with hope. Samantha shook her head, her expression apologetic. "Not yet, Michael. But I promised you I'm not giving up. I'm going to figure this out, no matter what it takes." Michael nodded, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Samantha hated seeing him like this, hated that Karen's petty vendetta was causing him so much distress. But she was determined to put an end to it, once and for all. With a newfound sense of purpose, Samantha began to formulate a plan. She knew she was up against a formidable opponent, but she also knew that she had the advantage of being the chief of police. If anyone could outsmart Karen, it was her. As the night wore on, Samantha's mind raced with possibilities, each more daring than the last. But she knew she had to be careful. That one wrong move could have disastrous consequences. This was a game of high stakes, and she couldn't afford to lose. The next day, Samantha put her plan into action. She instructed her officers to maintain a low profile, while she orchestrated a carefully choreographed scenario that she hoped would catch Karen in the act. As the evening approached, Samantha made sure that both she and Michael were seen leaving the house, making it appear as though they were going out for the night. In reality, they were simply laying the groundwork for their trap. Once they were out of sight, Samantha had her officers discreetly take up positions around the Wilsons' house, ready to spring into action at her signal. As the minutes ticked by, Samantha and Michael waited anxiously in a nearby cafe, their eyes glued to the live feed from the hidden cameras they had placed around Karen's property. Sure enough, just as the sun began to set, they saw a familiar figure creep out of the shadows and approach the Wilsons' front door. It was Karen, and she was holding what appeared to be a lock-picking kit. Samantha's heart raced as she watched the woman meticulously work on the lock, her brow furrowed in concentration. The moment Karen stepped inside, Samantha sprang into action. "Now," she shouted into her radio, and within seconds, her officers swarmed the house, sirens blaring. Karen's face contorted in shock and horror as she was caught red-handed, her precious stolen goods scattered around her feet. Samantha strode in, her expression grim, and slapped the handcuffs on the woman's wrists. "Karen Wilson, you're under arrest for burglary and insurance fraud," she announced, her voice laced with triumph. As Karen was led away, Michael rushed to his mother, his eyes wide with awe. "Mom, you did it. You caught her." Samantha pulled him into a tight hug, relief flooding her. "I told you I would, didn't I?" She paused, her expression darkening. "This woman has caused us enough trouble. It's time she faced the consequences of her actions." In the end, the evidence against Karen was overwhelming. The stolen goods were recovered, and her staged break-in was exposed as a blatant attempt to defraud her insurance company. Samantha made sure the case was airtight, leaving no room for Karen to wriggle her way out of it. As Karen was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, Samantha and Michael finally felt a sense of peace and closure. The long-standing feud with their neighbor had finally come to an end, and they could move on with their lives without the constant threat of Karen's vindictive behavior. For Samantha, it was a proud moment, a testament to her unwavering dedication to justice and her commitment to protecting her family. And for Michael, it was a lesson in the power of perseverance and the importance of having a strong support system, one that would always have his back, no matter what. As they walked back home, Samantha draped an arm around her son's shoulder, a smile on her face. "You know, Michael, sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is to outsmart them. And that's exactly what we did." Michael grinned, his eyes shining with newfound confidence. I'm glad I have you on my side, Mom. I don't know what I'd do without you. Samantha squeezed his shoulder affectionately. You'll never have to find out, sweetheart. I'll always be here, no matter what. And as they headed home, Samantha knew that their family had emerged from this ordeal stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.